Thank you. Everybody got the glossary number 4? Yes. That's good. So, did anybody do any more exploring of the InDesign and whether you can buy the Adobe CC from Do It and how much? Yeah, what did you find out?
I looked at it and they said you buy it once for 20, but then every year you have to renew it. So it's only good for a year. So you get like a year license, then you gotta rebuy it and buy it. So.
Okay. Did they tell you what happens at the end of the year if you don't renew the license?
I was just reading up there.
Okay. Yeah, they should have made that clear. It doesn't go away. All right? What will happen is that you won't get any of the updates.
Okay.
That's all. It'll stay on your computer forever, but you won't get any updates. That's all.
So
The Adobe doesn't have a magic button where after a year they can press the button and your computer shuts down. They'd like to, but they don't. Yes, sir?
Does that include like Photoshop and Illustrator? Or is that
Yes,
just
I think it's the whole cloud.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I think it's the whole thing. So, yeah, you have an opportunity to buy the whole thing at a real cut rate price. So, now there are some alternatives. There's actually some open source stuff that'll do many of the same things that InDesign does. I have tried some of it, but I have to admit it's been quite a while since I last did that. So I couldn't absolutely swear to whether it's any good or not. But if you poke around, if you look for document design software, you will find something. All right, where are we? Glossary number 4. Okay, we've discussed just about all of these terms. They're pretty basic. I just wanted to show you what they look like when they're actually on the screen. All right. So we talked a little bit about the design process, right? Remember, you went from thumbnails to a rough or mechanical, and then you spec'd it out. You decided what was going to be where, what typefaces you were going to use. And the reason for doing a lot of this stuff is to keep track of the decisions that you've made. And that becomes important over the course of time. As I said in class on Tuesday, if it's a one-shot deal, if this is the only time you're going to be doing this, don't worry too much about it. But anything that's going to be reused, anything that's going to be expanded, anything that you have to turn over to other people over the course of time, you want to make sure that it's going to be usable, and keeping track of these decisions is what makes the difference. And then the final one is called the comprehensive or the final. This is a proof that goes to the customer signs off on it, and they go ahead and they print it. All right. We talked about some of the ways of manipulating type, and in particular emphasizing type. And this became an issue with some of the resumes. When you get them back, you'll take a look at them and you'll realize you're emphasizing the wrong thing, or the way you're emphasizing it is not making the point that you want to make. The options that you have in both Word and InDesign, all caps, small caps. We talked about looking for the pro fonts where they actually have the small caps designed in the typeface. And then expanded. This is what happens when you do it in PowerPoint, right? It just adds one extra point of space between letters, and this one takes away a point of space. So it doesn't look terribly good. An initial letter is not the same as a drop cap. An initial letter is anything special you do to the first letter of a paragraph without dropping it. So if you look at old manuscripts, you'll see that they're designs. They draw all kinds of pictures. They add colors. They do all kinds of things with them. Here I just made it big and red in a different typeface. It's an indication of where an article begins, or a section of an article begins. And it's pretty common. It's used in conjunction with the drop cap. The problem, of course, with PowerPoint is that you can't do drop caps. You can do them in Word, but you can't really do them in PowerPoint. We talked about leading. And letting is the extra space between lines. I think some of you, when you go back and look at the resumes, you might want to rethink the letting. You might decide that the line spacing is too broad, and at least one guy had way too much space between the lines of type. And you really start to lose track of that whole proximity thing. You lose that if you've got too much space between the lines. So this is the default, all right? And here I've added extra space. Easier to read, a little bit, maybe not. Again, it depends on the typeface, right? And a lot is going to depend upon the X height, because the bigger the letters are, the clunkier they're going to look. And then over here, a lot less letting. You can get a lot more on the page, but slightly more difficult to read. A little bit less inviting. So these are the decisions that you make when you add and change letting. And I think I showed you how you can do this in Word. It's not very hard. You just you make it exactly, so you've got 10 on 12. You can make it exactly 10 on 12.2 or 12.4 or whatever you want to try, and see how Word handles that. A hanging indent is used primarily for lists. Sometimes it's a way of indicating something special is happening on the page. One person here wrote, I think, that they thought it was a good way of wrapping text around an image. The idea that you would put something under there. Generally, it's not used that way. Generally, you just use regular text wrapping for that, not a hanging indent. Hanging indents are good for lists. If you have a list item, it can be used for a section head. The way you do that is you do something different with the first few words up there. You make them bigger, blue, bold, italic, a different typeface, something. All caps, small caps, something, so that they stand out, and that becomes a head, and that's called a run-in head, because it actually becomes part of the paragraph. It doesn't stand outside the paragraph. Very, very common. You'll see it in a lot of books nowadays, but that's how you use the hanging indent. That's the primary way that it's used. Here you have the first paragraph of a section, no indent, and then indented. And I think you found when you tried to do the resume assignment that the built-in indents in Word are crazy. Indenting half an inch is way too deep. Much, much too deep. You'll do better off with 3/8 of an inch, in some cases even 1/4 of an inch. The traditional indent is an M. It's what they call an M quad, and it's the width of a capital M in that typeface. That would be, but nowadays that looks really small. So a little bit wider than an M is probably going to do the job for you. All right, other stuff that we talked about, underlining. It works okay, but you need to be careful. If you've got a descender, it's going to get cut off. This is called a strike through, and the only reason this is ever used is by lawyers or legislators when they're trying to change a law, to amend it or modify it. They apply this to the text, and it shows you which parts they voted to take out. Superscript is what you use when you want to make something squared, and subscript, of course, is when you make it H2O. Underscore is what you'll see over here between dumb_boss.com. The reason that we use this is because the HTML doesn't really allow for spacing. So in order to make sure that it's a continuous string of letters or characters, you have to put in something, so you put in the underscore. It's called underscore. It's the same as underlining, but they call it underscore. Right? Other parts of a document, this is an actual layout that I did as a volunteer for this organization. And you can see this is what we call a text box. And this is a shaded text box because it's filled with some kind of color, and it's a gradient. It goes from dark to light. You'll notice over here, you see this red line that runs around? This is an InDesign layout. The red line that runs around there, that's the bleed line. So in order to make this gradient box bleed off the page, I have to make sure that it goes as far out as that red line. And who decided where the red line is going to be? The printer. He sent me an email and he said it has to be 2 picas. So it's 2 picas. Okay? Other stuff that you'll see here, the image area is actually defined by what's inside of this black line. That's the page. And then you can see all of the various guides that I use to lay out the page. And you can see how I use alignment to get everything to line up nicely here. I've got an image that runs across, what do you call the divider line between two pages in the spread? The gutter, of course. All right, so this has to bleed right across the gutter here. It's got to bleed off one page and bleed off the other. Here's another gradient box, and again, you see it has to reach the bleed line over here. There's no bleed line between the two pages of the spread because they're going to be printed together. All right, what else do I got here? All right, now this is called work and turn. Just to tell you a little bit about how printers do this stuff. If they've got something that's going to be printed on two sides, all right, it makes more sense for them to lay it out so that they've got, let's see if I can do this up here now. All right, I've got the front and the back. We'll call them the front and the back. If I put them like this, and then I print them on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I wait till the ink is dry, and then I turn it over, turn it around, and run it back through the press again, and I'll get the back printed on the front printed on the back. That's called work and turn, and it's called two up because I'm printing two at a time. Two at a time. That's what two up means. All right. Other things you'll notice up here, you'll see some trim marks. These little marks over here, tells the printer where to trim the page. So this is gonna, if this is going to bleed off, it's going to be cut. This actually should show more of a bleed. I think I used the actual trimmed version to show you what it would look like here. And the gripper edge, some of you seem to be a little bit confused about the gripper edge and how that whole thing works. Wherever the page bleeds, you can't have ink. Wherever the gripper edge is, you can't have ink because the gripper has to grab the page. So I can bleed off here, I can bleed off there, and this is where you trim. You can see the trim marks, right? But this part over here, I have to leave enough room on the page in my design so the grippers can pull it right through the printing press. That's what the gripper edge is. All right? I think the rest of the terms on here are stuff that we'll talk about as we get to them. I just wanted to give you a basic introduction to this. Questions? You guys with me? Are you learning the terminology? Is it starting to make sense to you? Okay. Does anybody have any idea what happened to my friend Sarah today? No? Okay. She didn't tell anybody what was up with her? Okay. So I'll go through a couple things with InDesign, and then you'll pull up InDesign, and as we did on Tuesday, we'll work our way through some of these things. So I want to go down to all right, we did the desktop, menu bar, application bar, control panels. All right, this is where I want to start. Okay, if you pull down the window menu, all of these things over here, pretty much all of them will open up panels on the right-hand side. And that gives you an opportunity to control different things like stroke, which is the thickness of line, the color of a line, the way the corners work on a line. All these other things will open up panels. The one that's highlighted here is called Workspace, and as I told you on Tuesday, you can pretty much make that whatever you like when you have it on your own computer. So you can choose. If there's a whole bunch of panels that you use all the time, by all means go ahead and use them. There's also a connection to the bridge over here. I don't know if you noticed, but it says Mini Bridge. And this will open up a small version of the Adobe Bridge for you. And then if you need to go to the larger version to use any of those editing tools, it's right there for you. Okay? Other things to notice, there's some changes from previous versions that if you've used this before you might not be aware of. Type and tables is now, there's paragraph and character in there, but styles now has paragraph style and character style. So all the different styles are in here. They left type and tables without the styles. I don't know why. Everybody puts them back together anyway. So this is the basic of what you're going to have. At the top of the screen, you'll have the control panel. So that should be selected. If you don't want it, if you don't want to see it, you can unselect it. You're going to have the toolbar, that's going to be on the side, and then you'll have the application bar that runs across the top. And again, if there are any of these things that you don't want to see anymore, click them and get rid of them. And I think I was trying to tell you about the Windows thing. If you click on this one, it'll look more like a Windows computer, if you're familiar with that. That's where it's hiding. It's under the window menu. All right, so when you open this thing up, you'll wind up with these. There are several different varieties. This one shows character styles, character object styles, and then you'll see there's a double dotted line. So this becomes a unit, this becomes a unit, but they're all docked together. And most people just keep them over on the right-hand side. You can open them just by double-clicking on them. They'll pop open for you as you need them. So when you click on this one, you'll see there are two tabs, Paragraph Styles and Paragraph, one right next to each other. You can open up this one, and this little button over here will expand it, because you may have, here I've just got 4 paragraph styles. I may have a lot more than that. And by clicking that button, it'll pull them all the way down and open all of them up. When you're done with it and you want to put it away, you click on the double arrows and it'll close up and go off to the right-hand side. You're going to run out of room on the screen because this stuff takes up a lot of room. When you come to my office, you'll see I've got this enormous computer screen. I asked for that deliberately because this is what I do. And you need that. If you go to a print shop, you'll see they use enormous computer screens. And they may even have several open at once because they need to work on different parts of a spread, and it's really hard to do when you just got a tiny little screen over there. All right? Over here, this is the option button. I told you about all the magic that's hiding under there. And it may be that at some point when you open up InDesign, these things will already be open. And if they are, it'll just look like this. You'll see the tabs, and you'll see whichever one is in front. If you click on this one, this tab will open, and this one will close. They'll just be together up on the screen. Occasionally, you'll run across an older book about InDesign, going up to CS5, I think it is. This was the option button. That's the old one. That's what the new one looks like. But it does the same thing, just so that you recognize it. All right. Over on the side, you've got the tools bar. I think I put this in the handout. It should be in the student handbook. I hope. When you go to the back part where I put all the InDesign stuff. How are we doing? That's it. Ah, here it is. Okay, 51. You'll get to see the tools bar. All right? Now, there are 3 different views of the tools bar. When I first started using PageMaker, there was only one, and it was what they call the double column. And they called it a double column is because it has icons side by side. All right. But, you know, when you start using something and you get used to it, this is what I'm used to, so I always switch to the double column. If you like the single column, that's fine. If you want a single bar, you can do that too. There are some designers who prefer to have a single bar. All you have to do to change the way this thing looks is to click over here on these little puppies and it'll change the shape. And then you can change it to whatever you want. All right? So, the most important thing I can teach you about using the toolbar is that there are 2 arrows. You would think an arrow is an arrow, right? Oh. But, you want to see that again? No, you don't. Okay, I just want to see if you're awake. All right, but there are 2 arrows. And this, if you forget or you click on the wrong one, you will come to school with a lot of hair missing, where you'll pull it out. Don't pull your hair out. Just remember this. The black arrow is the selection tool. If you select anything with the black arrow, not only does it take the frame, okay, and I'll show you what the frame is in a minute, but whatever is inside the frame. So, if I want to grab the box and the contents of the box, I use the black arrow. If I'm just interested in taking something out of the box, let's say, for example, I need to give Alyssa her sugar fix because she wasn't here on Tuesday. Okay, then I use the white arrow. If I want to change the shape of the box, then I use the white arrow. All right? You see, you miss stuff if you don't come to class.
Sorry about that.
All right. So don't mix up if you get really confused, you can always go back. okay, you hit, what is it, Control Z, and it'll go back in history. All right, that's how, we have time travel. Yeah, with Adobe products, there's such a thing as time travel. All right, so you open the thing up, and I think this is the default, the single column on the left. If you don't like that, click on this thing. You can get a row across the top or the double column. It doesn't really matter which one. Whichever takes up the least room, I think, or whichever is most convenient for you. I've been told that people who are left-handed mouse people prefer to have it over on the right side of the screen, but yeah, go figure. I don't know. All right. So if you go into the help menu in InDesign, what I did was, by the way, these things no longer come with a user manual. What they come with is a humongous PDF file. And what I did for you guys is I put it on the Moodle page. So the whole help menu is there, and you will find it extremely unhelpful. It's one of the most poorly written things you could possibly imagine. The terrible truth is that I don't actually believe that Adobe cares very much anymore. I think they have such a huge market share. It's kind of like the oil companies. You don't like ExxonMobil, we don't care. You're going to buy oil out of the same well. It doesn't matter to us. And I think the same thing has happened with Adobe. If you do any research online, you will discover designers and writers and authors and book publishers screaming all over the place about how InDesign has become old-fashioned and behind the times, and Adobe doesn't respond to its customers and blah, blah, blah. And I think to a certain extent that's really true. Last spring, I was part of a group of people here on campus who use Adobe products a lot. We got together. Some people from Adobe actually flew out to Wisconsin in March. Whoa. This was a big deal for them to come out here and talk to us about Adobe products, and we told them how we felt, and they said, yes, we've heard that before. And they flew back to California, and we never heard from them again. So much for developing a partnership with Adobe. They have their market, they've got it sewed up, they don't have to change anything if they don't want to. So the user manual is not terribly helpful, and that's one of the reasons why you had to pay for an extra 14 pages in the handbook, because I had to show you how this stuff works. And there just wasn't another good way of doing it. All right, so let's take a look at what this junk is up here. The first few up there, you've got a couple of arrows, and then you've got something called page, and then you've got gap, and then you've got something that looks like a dumpster. All right, the only two you really need to worry about is the black arrow and the white arrow. The other three you will never use, so don't worry about them. All right, the next batch over here, this is a really, really important one. The T, this is the text tool. Any place you want to put text on the screen, you got to use the big T. That's where you have to start. And you'll get frustrated because you'll have the black arrow and you'll try to type and nothing will happen because you have to switch over to the black T, the big black T. All right? This is for drawing a line. This looks like a pen, but it is not a pen. You can't write with it. It's actually designed to change the boundaries of frames and things and change lines. Because the way InDesign creates lines, whether it's a key line around something or whether it's a shape, is by what they call vector graphics. All right? So it's not bitmap. You know the difference between bitmap and vector graphics? Is it clear? I see some people going, not really sure. Okay. Very quick explanation. Bitmap, vector graphics. All right? If this were bitmap, it would be made up of hundreds and hundreds of tiny, tiny little dots. That's called bitmap. If you want to make it larger, there's a very good chance that you'll wind up with dots all over the place. Unless the computer is really, really clever, or you use something like Photoshop, where what happens is the computer actually interpolates. So you've pulled all these dots apart, the computer will try to figure out, oh yes, there should be more dots over here, and add them for you. But that's a complicated thing. It works fine in Photoshop, not so great with using text. So text, the way they do it is to design something like this. They have a point and another point, and you connect them with a line. And then you have a point and you have another point, and you connect them with a line. And you've got a point and another point, you connect them with a line. So do you see what I'm doing here? All right, it's a collection of points and lines, and because it's a computer and it's based on math, you simply say, okay, 90 degrees, blah, blah, blah. Okay, 45 degrees, blee, blee, blee. If it's a curve, then we all know how do you measure a curve. You've got a radius. There, that's all the math I know. That's the limits of my math skills. All right? But, so what you can do with this little pen tool is you can use it to change where the anchor points are, where these little dots are that control these things. Or the other thing you can do with it is by grabbing this one that looks like a V, an upside down V, it'll change something curvy to something that's at an angle. All right? These are called Bezier points. I'll show you more of this stuff when we get to it. You don't need to know this all right now. All right, so what else you got up here? You got a pencil tool. The pencil tool will draw 1 pixel at a time. If you need something like that, it's okay for that. Hiding behind the pencil tool. Now, every time you see one of these little black triangles down there in the corner, it means that there are more tools hiding behind this thing. So if you click on this pencil tool, you'll get a menu that will spring out over here, and inside that menu you'll see that there are 2 other tools. One is called Smooth and one is called Erase. I'm going to let you guess what Erase does. But the Smooth tool, what it will actually do is if you drag it along something like this, it will try to smooth out the curve for you. And that can be very efficient if you're trying to make something, because sometimes you just draw a bunch of points and connect them, and it looks pretty ugly. The Smooth tool smooths that out for you. All right. Then we go up to these 2 over here. They look like rectangles. One has an X, one doesn't have an X. What's the difference? If it's got an X, it's a frame. And frames don't mean anything. It's like saying I've got an empty box. That's all it says. It doesn't tell the computer anything about what goes in the box until you decide to do something. So if you've got the empty box and you suddenly click on that, guess what InDesign's going to think? You want to put text in that box, don't you? Yeah, we know you. All right. If you have the box, if you have a box selected and all of a sudden you click on swatches, InDesign's going to think, oh, you want to fill that box with color, don't you? So it'll make a certain assumptions based upon what you decide to do with the box. The other ones that don't have any X's in them, those are just shapes. All right? The 2 main ones that you need to know, the rectangle, the ellipse. The polygon tool, you can pick different kinds of polygons. They're mostly stars, but you can also do triangles, hexagons, things like that. I'll show you how to do that stuff. It's handy for some things and useless for others. Transformation tools. Scissors is primarily used for making stuff for downloading on the internet. Because what you do is you cut it up into pieces, and then when you send it over the internet, you send 1 piece at a time, and then the computer reassembles it. That's why sometimes you click on something on the internet and it says downloading, 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 down. It's collecting all those little pieces. All right, and you may have to do that if you've got a really, really big design, but you don't need to know any about any of that stuff. All right, free transform. This will let you change the shape and size of any box. And you can see that the ones that are hiding behind it, rotate, scale, shear, you can try those out. This is a fill, but it's not fill with a solid color, it's filling with a gradient. And then there's gradient feather. Whenever you go from a color to nothing, from color to transparent, that's called feathering. Feathering, going from a color to transparent. So gradient swatch, you can go from black to white, from blue to red, or you can even add intermediate colors. And this is what the kids love about this. You can put 256 colors in there, right? Ooh, and a rainbow effect. Or you can simply go from red to nothing. All right. And then finally, the last one's down here, the modification tools. You won't use this. I'll show you how to use the eyedropper. This is how, if you, let's say you want to use a color for, I don't know, initial letters or drop caps or something, and you want to pull the color out of somebody's shirt. you like a particular blue, and you want to use that blue for a color of text, you can use the eyedropper tool to select the color, and then you can drop it into the text, and the text will change the same color that you pulled off the design. All right, and that can be cool sometimes. Zoom in, and zoom out, measuring hand, other stuff. It's you'll see it when you get there. You still with me? All right, good. Let's keep going. If you discover something that I don't know or explain badly, you need to tell me. This stuff is not intuitive at all. The learning curve is very steep. It takes a long time to get up there. I would never expect anybody to just pick up InDesign and start working with it. I used to get calls from the Wisconsin engineer. What do we do? Yeah. All right. Thank goodness the graphic designers have become a lot better at that. So I'll take you through a couple of these things. When you open up the new document, remember we started this on Tuesday. We open up a new document. I'll tell you what some of these things are that you can see up here. So the first one over here you saw, it's called print. You pull down the little arrow and it'll give you choices. Are you going for print, which is ink on paper? Are you going for something that you're going to post on the web? Or is it going to be one of the digital publishing formats? And I think I showed you the save as options. You got a lot of different ways of saving stuff over here. Number of pages, you can go up to 9,999. Anybody here planning on writing that much? Okay. You're not? Alyssa, you're not? I thought you were.
Oh, sorry.
No, okay, that's all right. You don't have to. It's not required for this course. All right. All right, number of pages, facing pages. Now, if you click this, InDesign is going to say, oh, this guy wants to work with spreads. And it will automatically set it up for you as spreads. But there are times when you just want to have, one page at a time. In which case, do not click that button, right? Now, it's automatically going to start on page 1, and page 1 is going to be a recto. Page 1 is always a recto. Always. Except if you're writing in Arabic or Hebrew. Right? Okay. So, for our purposes, page 1 is always good. But what if you want to start with a spread? What if you don't want to start on a right-hand page, you want to start with a left facing a right like that? This is what you have to do. Change that number to 2. And it will start with a spread. Then later on you can simply delete the first page because it's still going to have a recto, but you can get rid of it. You don't need it. All right? Primary text frame. This is going to assume, if you click on this, InDesign is going to assume that you want to put text on every page, right? And it's going to ask you where you would like to put it. How would you like this? How would you like this text frame to fit? And this is where the fitting is for the text frame. So the fitting here is a 1/2 inch top, bottom, inside and outside. And the reason it says inside and outside is because I've got facing pages clicked. If you unclick this, this is going to change to left and right. All right? Inside means to the gutter. Outside means away from the spine. You got that? Is that clear? All right. Where else are we going here? Automatically shift, okay, and then page size. You have, these are the options, these are the default options for page sizes. If you want to make, sometimes people want to make labels or, what do you call them? Jewel boxes for holding compact discs or DVDs. They have a default in there. Automatically size them. Isn't that nice? If you care to do that. These measurements here, the A4, A3, these are European sizes. We'll talk about those when we get to paper. You don't really need to know about that unless you go to the store and by accident buy an entire case of A4 paper. If anybody would like some free A4 paper, I'd be happy to give it away. Well, I didn't buy it. No, somebody else did. Hey, come on, guys. Do I look like somebody would fall for that? All right. These sizes over here should look familiar to you. These are for screens, right? Various size screens. The 800 by 600 is what you should be using if you are sending photos to people online. At this point, the internet is still clunky enough so that if you send people in humongous documents, they're going to be very angry at you. So you need to reduce them in size. And the last thing over here, orientation, vertical or horizontal, portrait or landscape. Yes, sir?
How important is your decision, like in time to print, like, number one?
Ah!
Why would it really matter?
Okay. The decisions that you make here can be changed later on. The reason for making the decisions at the beginning is that it's going to help you with the layout. So if you start out and you say, okay, I'm going to use legal size paper, and then you change your mind later on, that's going to be a royal pain in the you-know-what. So it's a good thing to know ahead of time what you're going to be working with. The number of pages, you don't have to worry too much about this. InDesign will expand to accommodate you. So you can open up a single page, and then let's say you want to import a 50-page research paper and lay it out in InDesign. You can do that, and I'll show you that there's a way of doing it. When you import it into InDesign, you just InDesign, make as many pages as I need. And InDesign will automatically make it flow through the ice cube tray and add more ice cubes as you need them. Okay? So this class is all about getting it on ice, right? Questions? All right. So we'll play with this when you go back to InDesign in just about 10, 15 minutes. The bottom part over here, you can have up to 216 columns. That's the limit. What else? Margins. If you want them to be different, click on the chain over here, and then you can make these different sizes. We talked a little bit about leaving more room for thumbs on the outside, and maybe more room at the bottom. Maybe sinking things down a little bit at the, so you'll have to, play with it and see what looks good for you. If you'll notice in the student handbook, you'll see that the pages, the verso and recto, have different layouts. And that was a very deliberate design decision on my part. Okay? Other stuff, now, this is going to be under, you have to actually open this thing up if you actually want to play with it. But this will let you add that extra space for the bleed that I showed you. And then remember we talked last time about putting a slug on article to make sure you know what it is. And when you're ready to go, click OK, and a new window opens up. Now, one of the things you can do, you asked about, what if you don't really know what you want to do? Click this button while you're working with this menu before you hit OK. And every change you make here, you'll see a page will open up on the screen. And as you make the changes, you can see them happening on the screen. So let's say you decide you want 15 columns, and you look at it, and boy, does that look stupid. So you switch it back to 10 columns, and when you make the change, you'll actually see it happening on the page. So when you get the layout to look the way you want, then you can click OK. So the preview button, just about every menu in InDesign and Photoshop has a preview button. And you should always click it, because you always want to see what's going on. You can't do that in Word. You make changes in Word, and you click OK, and you say the prayers and everything, and maybe the heavens will open up and the type will look the way you wanted it to look. Maybe. All right. If you want to change stuff, later on you come across the idea that, oh, I goofed. It's not quite the way I want. It's not the end of the world. You go into the File menu to something called Document Setup. This little menu will open up, and you can change these things if you need to. All right? This is the full set of options. If you click on this button, you won't see this part. That's all. All right? So you do have there are things you can do even after you've started working with a document to change it. If you have a bunch of settings and you know you want to use this format again and again, for example, I showed you the newsletter that I work on for Mom. The Mom newsletter, I've got document preset. Okay, it's called, there are two different versions of the newsletter. One is for clients, one is for donors. So I've got a preset for the donor newsletter, a preset for the client newsletter. She just sent me the copy today. All right. Every time I see the changes that she's made. Yeah, one of the things, when you become a graphic designer, You learn to be very, very patient with people and very respectful of their opinions, no matter how wrong and stupid they are. You just have to. Actually, she's been really good to work with, and she's been very clever at helping me solve some design problems with it. She had the, did you see the pictures of the pencils for the back to school thing? That was not my idea. I really didn't want to do that. I begged her for something else, and she said, well, all I have is this picture of pencils. I said, all right. But next time I'm going to get better pictures. All right. So all of this stuff came from the old days when you would get a job as a litho stripper. And believe it or not, folks, I used to be. No, I can't go there, can I? I'll wind up in the dean's office. All right, I used to be a litho stripper. Yep, that's what we did. And we worked at these light tables, and we pasted the art onto pasteboards. And that was what our job was. And this is what a pasteboard would look like. Here's the tabletop, right? And then I'd have a sheet, kind of like graph paper and stuff. I've got some in my office. I'll show you maybe next time. And then I'd have the images that I needed. I would have, here's my folio, here's a head. I'd have body text. All this stuff would come out of a typesetting machine on pieces, and it was actually photographic paper. Very, very sharp, very, very clear. And then we would put some wax on it, and I would slap it up on the columns, and it would all fit just where you want it to be. All right? So don't you want to know why they call it a litho stripper? Huh? Don't you want to know? Okay, I'll tell you. I'll tell you how this works. All of this stuff is going to be put up in front of a huge camera. The camera is about the size of a small dorm room. That's a fairly small room. But it's actually a camera, and one wall holds a big sheet of film, and in front of that there's a lens, and the lens faces this layout. All right? So when the art is ready, when it is what they call camera-ready art, you put it up on this board, and you aim the camera at it, you get it in focus, and then you go click, and you take a picture of it, and you get a gigantic negative. And this negative is what you can use. You can take this and you can put it on top of a piece of sensitized aluminum, and then you shine a light through it, and wherever the light hits the sensitized aluminum, that's where the ink will stick. That's how you do that. That's the creation. Now, but there are times, of course, when, let's say perhaps we've got this page and we decided that we want area teachers wary of idea, we want that to be in red. So I make my image. I've got my big sheet of film, and I take a piece of tape, and I tape it over that, and then I make a black plate. Then I take a sheet of vinyl, orange vinyl, paste it over the whole thing, and then I take an X-Acto and I cut away over here, just like that, peel that away, strip it away, put that in front of the camera, take another picture, and use that to make the plate for the red ink. And that's what a litho stripper did. It had nothing to do with my moves. All right. So what InDesign is doing is it's mimicking the old lightboard. And that's what you see here. So you're going to see these spreads. You'll see them on the pasteboard. If you put stuff on the pasteboard, it doesn't print. So let's say you've got a picture, you know you want to use it, but you're not sure where. You stick it over here. And then when you're ready, you can just drag it into the spread. Can't do that in Word. Can't do that in Word. There is if you've got Word on a Macintosh, there is something called Publishing Layout, which sort of mimics this, sort of, but it's very, very clunky. It's not nearly as easy to use as InDesign. All right? The workspace will show the panels, and this is very typical of what you'll see. This is the basic set. So if you open it up and you click on Workshop Basic, you'll get pages, links, character, paragraphs, stroke swatches, and effects. Pages is what you use to add other pages. If you need to, or insert, let's say you want to insert a page between two other pages. Page numbering can be done with that. And then links is important when you send stuff to a printer, you need to make sure that the print shop gets not just your stuff, but also the originals. So you've got a bunch of photographs, that goes with it, that becomes a link that travels with the document. Well, I'll talk more about this. This is the default set that you get. So this is the basic set, this is the default set. All right, master pages. So one of the things that you want to do is you don't want to have to put the page number on every single page. It would be stupid to stand there going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That doesn't make any sense. So what InDesign lets you do is let you create master pages. And on the master page, you can put page numbers. You can put, let's say you want a running footer along the bottom that says Scientific American Magazine, July 2016. You can have that appear on every single page. Anything you put on the master will appear on all the pages. You can also have a master spread. So let's say, for example, you want to have the folio numbers on the outside of the verso and the outside of the recto. You can have 2 of those up there, and every page will look. Let's say you have a design element that you want to run across the gutter and bleed off both sides. You can do that on the master. It'll show up on every single page. All right? So take a look at the header in the student handbook. All right? You should have a header right here. Right? Basics of Typography and Design, page 2. Basics of Typography and Design, page 3. And then there's a footer at the bottom telling you the name of the genius who put this together. All right. You can also put out guides. Let's say that you don't want to have to measure halfway down the page every single time you have a new page. Make a guide on the template, on the master page, and it'll appear everywhere. All right? 2 other things. At the very bottom of that tools panel. All right, and this is what happens if you're looking at it now in the 2-column view. The tools panel, remember I showed you the tools panel? The bottom, there are 2 little icons over there, 1 and 2. Number 1 is the normal view. And with the normal view, you'll see the pasteboard, you'll see the grids, you'll see all the extra stuff. If you click on the other one, number 2, that's called the preview. That shows you the page just the way it's going to look if it's printed. And that's when you'll discover that a photograph is hanging halfway off the page. That's where you discover a lot of stuff. Other things you can look at under the preview menu, you can also see the bleeds, you can see the slugs. All of that stuff can be visible. All right? So I think it's time for you to open up InDesign. You should have a big black screen. No, not yet. A big black screen. Is it coming? Signs of life here?
Usually, like when we did it, it's just like drawing and craft.
Oh, you have your own version?
It's the 30-day free trial.
Oh, the 30-day free trial. Okay, that's cool. All right. So change it from black to something where you can actually see what it says on the screen. Remember how to do that under preferences? I think it was general. I believe it's the edit menu. Down near the bottom, perhaps? Yeah. And make it something that's not black. I'll make it easier for you to see. So, you get it open. I guess the first thing I'd like you to do is play with the toolbar. Click those little buttons and see which way you like it. The double column, the single column, or the single row. And you can, it's just that there should be two little itty bitty arrows at the top of the toolbar. Can you see them up there? They're white on yours. The toolbar's on the left. Yeah, there you go. Click once. No, there, got him. There you go. There's the double toolbar. Get rid of that. Click it again. It should turn into the single column, and then one more click. No. It's not going. It's not turning into a row. Maybe there's another way to do that. I don't remember how to do it. Anyway, whichever way you like it, make it that way. Doesn't really matter. And then when you're ready, open up a new document. You can play with the settings if you want. And you can see if you click preview, it'll show you what's happening as you set up the page, right? So, there's the page. Change the columns and watch what happens. See, there they are. Isn't that nice? So you can see all that stuff happening as you're working on it. Okay? So then when you're ready, you got the page up there, grab the big black T and put it somewhere up towards the top left of the screen. Click and pull down to create a text box. All right. Now, if you go under the Type menu, somewhere down towards the bottom of the Type menu, you'll see something called Fill with Placeholder Text. Can you pull down the Type menu? There we go. See, it's the second from the bottom there. Fill with placeholder text, and boom! You now have some text to play with. Isn't that nice? It's not lorem ipsum, it's something very much like lorem ipsum. Apparently, I don't know if anybody actually owns the copyright to lorem ipsum or anything like that, but what can I say? All right, so let me take you through this and then we'll work with that. Do you have the Pages window on the top right there? Does it say Pages? The Pages panel? Yeah, click on the Pages panel, open up the Pages panel so you can follow along with what's on the screen up here. Does it say Pages at the top right there? There you go. There you go. Oh, you don't see, you can't see which one I'm pointing to. It's going to be up in the top right corner of the screen. It's going to say Pages, right? And at this point, you should only have one page, and then there should be a master. Is that right? Or maybe some of you have a spread, perhaps? If you're fooling around with it? Okay. In any event, this is what it's telling you. All right. This is a recto page. This is going to be page 1. And the master that's assigned to this is a master A. This is pages 2 and 3. This is a spread. And the master that's assigned to that is master B. Master B. So you're thinking to yourselves, who are these masters and why do we serve them? Okay, so down on the bottom of the screen, I'm gonna have to open up InDesign here. Give me a sec to get this going here. What am I looking at? Programs, Creative Cloud, InDesign. Okay. On the lower left-hand corner of the screen, you're going to see a little button. It should say, okay, you see where it says 1? It should say page 1. And just to the right of that 1, there should be a down arrow. Okay? And put the down arrow on A master. And everything disappears. except you should see a spread on the screen. Did that happen? Alyssa, on the bottom, on the left, you see where there's a page number? There's a little down arrow next to it? Down arrow to the right. Yeah, right there. Pull that down, go to A Master. And now you get the spread. Now, one of the things that you can do while I'm waiting for my InDesign to come up is go under View and try zooming in and out. View entire pasteboard, view page, put on window. Just try some of those, yeah. So you just so you get a sense of what that looks like. And you'll see why people need enormous screens to actually get anything done with this thing. Okay? Ah, look, it's up. Or is it? What's new? I don't care what's new. I care about what's old. My screen over here is, I think it's actually smaller than yours, believe it or not. Which one am I looking for? Interface. Okay. All right. So I will open up a new document. Here's my new document. I come down to the bottom and I've got the A Master. All right, so this is what you have now, right? And there's nothing there. Anything you type on the master is going to show up on all the other pages in the document. You will find it extremely frustrating if you try to design something and you can't find it, or it keeps showing up where you don't want it. So that's what's happening. It's happening on the A Master. So come over here and let's find a cool design. Let's go under Shapes. If you hold down the mouse key, you'll see you've got rectangle, ellipse, or polygon. We'll take an ellipse just for the heck of it. And we'll put an ellipse up here. And we're going to need to fill that with something. Let's pick a color. Blue is always good. Now, if you don't like the solid color, if the solid color is too dark or too oppressive, or it doesn't fit your aesthetic needs, you can come over here. There's a button that says Tint. Do you see this? It's up on the side here. And you can drag this over, and what a tint will do will be to add white to the solid color. And now I've gone from the dark blue to a much lighter blue circle. Okay? And it'll stay there. Now, if I want it to appear on all the pages, I can simply go Control Copy, and then go Control Paste. And I can put it over on the other page as well. So you could do this with the design element if you wanted to. All right? So that's just one way of doing it. Now, page numbering. I'm going to show you how to do page numbering. Pay attention, because this is not at all intuitive. It's not where you think it is. Believe me, it's not where you think it is. You need to take the type tool. And let's say I want to number these things on the lower outside corner. All right, I'm going to just make a little text box over there. Did you see how I did that? Got the T, and then I dragged from the top left to the bottom right, diagonally, and that created the text box. Can you see the text box? Can everybody see it? All right. Then I go under Type, and at the bottom here, hiding under Special Character. Now, you're still not going to see page numbers. You have to know where they are. They're hiding under markers. Yes, I don't know why they do this. But there they are. Here's the current page number. It's going to show up over here. The default is going to be the letter A. That's okay. It doesn't matter to me, because I know that when I have an actual page there, it'll turn into whatever the page number is. What concerns me is finding the most ridiculous looking typeface I can. I definitely need, what have I got here? Oh, Old English, absolutely. And of course, because I'm a true maniac, It's got to be really humongous. And let's see, should I make it red? Why not? Okay, so there's my page number for the left-hand page. For the verso page, there it is. Now we're going to do the same thing on the recto page. All right? Except because I'm a true maniac, I'm going to put it in the top right corner. And again, type, insert special character, markers, current page number. And again, it shows an A. And because I am a true and total maniac, I will pick a completely different typeface. Franklin will do. And I will make it humongous. And I will make it green. Okay? So there are my page numbers. Now, anything else I want to appear on all of these pages, very, very easy to do. I can simply take the text box and draw over there, and whatever I type will show up on every single page. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see what I did up there. All right? A little text box, and that's going to show up on the recto. It's not going to show up on the verso. You ready to go back to see what it looks like on page 1? So you come back here under the A master, and you go back to page 1. And this is what I have on page 1 now. All right, did everybody see how I did that? Did you all get it? It's not intuitive. All right, so this is my page master. Now I'm going to come over here under pages, the pages menu at the top, and I'm going to insert an extra page. There are several different ways to insert pages. The simplest is if you just know you want one more page right after this one, click on the little page with the folded corner, and that will give you the second page. Did you see how I did that? You click on the little page with the folded corner. All right? So I'm going to zoom out so you can see the whole thing up here. And this is what my spread looks on pages 2 and 3. Right? Can you see that? And InDesign automatically numbered them for me. And here's my little text, and here's my shape. And every page will look that way. If you open up go back to the Pages menu now, and you can pull this down, and you can now see the different pages that I have. These are little miniatures of what the pages look like. And they all have the A master applied to them. Why would you need to have different masters? What's the point of having more than one template? Do you want the page number on the front cover? No. Do you want the page number on the back side of the front cover? No. Do you really want the page number on the table of contents? Maybe, maybe not. Okay? If you have an appendix at the back of the book and the pages are numbered with Roman numerals, you want to change the numbering style? Probably need a different master for that as well. Okay? Did everybody see what I'm doing here? All right. Let's take it, since we're having fun with color, let's do a little bit more with some color stuff up here. Let's grab a shape over here. This time, instead of the ellipse, I'm going to grab the polygon tool. And if I click on the page, it'll create a polygon, whatever the default is set to. But if I click off the page, I will be able to change the options. So try it both ways. First, click on the page, and you'll get something. Looks like I've got a hexagon. And then click off the page, and you'll get a chance to change the settings. So the nice thing you can do with the hexagon is you can create a star inset, which everybody loves, right? Because what's better than a 6-pointed star is brisket and Rosh Hashanah. All right, my joke. And I'm going to change the settings. And now the problem with this is that there is no preview. So whatever you do happens, happens. You can change the number of sides, you can change the star inset, and click OK, and something will happen. And here's my shape. Whoops, grab my shape. Where is it? Come on, move over there. There it is. All right. So I grabbed the shape and I grabbed it with the black arrow. You got a shape? Has everybody got a shape on there? All right. Switch arrows. Try the white arrow and see what happens if you try to grab the shape with the white arrow. Can't do it. Oh, all kinds of terrible things happen, right? Okay. Do you see the frustration? Do you see why people curse the white arrow? But the white arrow can be very helpful too. All right. I'm going to zoom in. I'll show you just a little bit of stuff that you can do with the white arrow if you choose to do it. I've got my white arrow. I can take one point of the star and I can stretch it out. Come on, baby, go for me. Why is it not moving? It's not grabbing things here. Wait a second. Did I do it right? All right. When you see the little square box, that means you've got a point. When you see the little bar, it means that you've got the straight line. So I can grab straight lines, I can grab points. And then if you come over here to the little pen tool, now you can play with the pen tool if you want. If the pen tool with a plus, I can come over here and add an extra anchor point. Come on, baby, do it for me. This mouse really stinks. And then I should be able to grab that with my white arrow. And now I've got an extra thingamabob there. Okay? Now, this particular shape has a stroke. So I'll show you what strokes are. Come over here to the right-hand side. Select your shape. And by select, you probably want to use the black arrow. And then open up the stroke menu. Okay? The stroke is the border, the boundary of whatever the shape is. And you have a lot of different choices here. You can change the weight. You can go all the way down to 1/4 of a point. That's a hairline. You can go all the way up to probably infinity. I don't know how big you can make it. You can make them ginormous. That's a fancy word that my granddaughter uses. It's like giant enormous. All right? You can change these angles over here. See, these are sharp angles. You can change those to rounded angles or even more rounded angles. It's hard to see, but it really is changing them. And it'll do that as well. All right. This over here, align the stroke. Now, if you can see the stroke is the blue line around which this is the blue line is the path. The black part is the stroke. In this case, the path is in the middle of the black line. But I can change that so that the path is on the outside. Or I can move it to the inside. Did you see how I did that? So you can be on the outside or the inside. And then what type would you like? You have lots of different options for different kinds. One of our favorites, of course, is Japanese dots. What could be more fun than Japanese dots? But wait, why don't you go, I'll make it one of the dashed lines. Pick one of the dashed lines there. And I'll show you something even cooler. Dashes is so boring. It's just black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white. Who needs that? There are gaps between those black dashes, and I can fill them with color. I can even change the color to something else if I want. And that's how you use the gap color at the bottom there. All right? Now, the next one over is color, and you don't use that one. You don't need to use that one. I'll show you how to use it later. Go to swatches over here. This is your color selection. Remember we talked a little bit last time about how you've got cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And you'll notice that these are set up with a little flag next to them that indicates it's cyan, magenta, and black. And this is red, green, and blue. This really should be red, green, and blue over here. But I told the computer that I wanted to make a print document, and that's why it selected it that way. That's not many colors, is it? You need more colors than that, don't you?
Yeah.
How many people here got the 64 pack of Crayola crayons when they were a kid? Who got 128? With the sharpener? What, were you rich? Did anybody get the 256? I don't talk to you people. You're in private school, right? No, the 256. You remember this one?
You had that?
You did?
No.
No, only really rich kids had that. And then they wouldn't share. Okay, hit the options button. Hit the options button. And then go under load swatches. Wait, do I want to load swatches? No, I don't.
New color swatch?
Uh,
Top one?
let's go with new color swatch. Yeah, all right, that's the one I wanted. Go under new color swatch. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit, I think, next week about color. All you need to know right now is that if you want to make something look like natural color, the way printers do that is with little itty bitty dots of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, right? But if you want to do something special, like the Wisconsin engineer, and you want to have the red that you see on this gentleman's fine sweatshirt, or on, who else has got a Bucky Badger book or shirt or something? It's Bucky Badger red, folks. You've got to have that exact red color. It's got to match perfectly every single time. And this is how you can do that. That's what we call a spot color. So instead of a process color, we're going to pick a spot color. All right? And we're going to look for Bucky Badger red. So we can pull this down, and you pull it down, and I can't see Bucky Badger red. Oh, it's not there. Oh, my dear, what am I going to do? What shall I do? What shall I do? All right, what we're going to do is we're going to go to a system of colors called the Pantone Matching System, PMS, Pantone Matching System, and we're just going to pick solid colors on uncoated paper. So just click this bottom one over here, solid colors on uncoated paper, and you will get a slider bar, and you can slide that down, and you will see all the colors that ever were are under there somewhere. And if you're really madly in love with Bucky Badger and you want to see Bucky Badger red, you have to go to Pantone PMS. Come on, baby. It's going. They're not in perfect order. We're almost there. Oh, we missed again. Here we are. Pantone 200 is Bucky Badger red. Now you know the secret of Bucky Badger. It used to be 185, but after Barry Alvarez came in, he decided Pantone 200. This guy pays as much attention to the color of Bucky Badger as he does to where the football is, which explains a lot about last weekend, doesn't it? All right, so now we're going to add this color to our collection, and it will pop up right over here on your swatches screen. You can click done, and there it is. There's Pantone 200. Mine looks very pink.
Mine looks way pink, yeah.
Isn't that strange? I wonder what happened. I wonder why it did that. I have no idea why it did that. But there you go. You can add all the colors in the rainbow if you choose to. You can also create gradients. If you click on this little button over here, Gradient Swatch Tool, I will have a gradient that goes between two colors. And I can make it a linear, I'm going to make it a linear gradient. And one color at this end is going to be yellow. Wait, come on, do it for me, babe. I guess I need to do new gradient color. All right, new gradient swatch. All right, here we go. One of them is going to be, we'll take it from our swatches, yellow, and the other one is going to be Pantone 200. And now I have a new swatch, and now you can see my beautiful gradient. And there you are. Isn't that truly awesome? Okay, this can be very addictive, and you should be very careful playing with it.